Welcome. I'm so excited to have you back here with us to Thriving Holistic Practitioner. Today we have an incredible guest. I'm excited for this conversation. Ashley Holmes, who's a holistic fertility coach, is joining us from British Columbia, Canada. And so thanks so much for joining us. Excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, likewise. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into this line of work to begin with?
My path chose me, I would say, and it's really been my business to step into that and to fully serve in a bigger and impactful way because my infertility struggles led me to thankfully be blessed with children, but I also know that 1 in 6 women are struggling with infertility and that there truly isn't enough support out there and available for women to be able to feel empowered through this process and also to have it be one that is less of an emotional roller coaster ride and one in which they can feel like their best true selves and nourish themselves optimally and have that wisdom to move forward with their child.
So what did you do before you embarked on this journey?
I was before COVID, I was a hot yoga teacher and in person and live, and my journey led me though to originally having to use a fertility clinic over a decade ago to be able to conceive and having unexplained infertility. I was never given any answers of why I couldn't conceive, and I didn't want to go down that road again and put myself through that again because of the mental and emotional toll it really took on me. And not thinking I could have more children on my own and realizing that wasn't the truth, and that by embodying this ancient sacred wisdom and bringing my body back into balance and alignment, I could conceive naturally and easily and quickly, and everything that I thought wasn't possible actually was.
Wow. So, can you tell us more about like what was going on in your life at that time and like how cuz see so if we think about the process, a lot of times like you said our passion or our purpose kind of finds us. But when we're walking that path, we don't know that that's what's around the bend. So we feel, lost or confused or like we're in the struggle. Like what was going on for you in that time and kind of how did you overcome that? What kept you going?
I landed on my yoga mat with a $5 karma class when my twins were quite young, and it was from there where I really started to journey inwards. And originally it was the hot yoga that had me hooked, but eventually I realized there's more to yoga, there's more to experience, there's more to explore, and it just led me to dive deeper and to learn other forms of yoga to teach, and that Ayurveda is the sister science to yoga, and that this is ancient wisdom that often in the West that we aren't incorporating, but that really serves us and helps us to nourish ourselves wholly and completely. And to really just tap into the energetics because I didn't realize how disconnected I was. I didn't realize that I thought I was quote unquote healthy, but there was a lot of unlearning and relearning and actually working with my body instead of doing what I thought was best for it. And there's really a big difference. And with so much information prevalent out there in society, it's really important to be able to tune in and tap into what actually works for you, what actually is in your best interest and serves you best and makes you feel the best. And that's unique for all of us. And that's why I work individually and customize programs for women one to one because we are all unique and we all deserve to be honored and met where we're at in order to move through what we've been through to achieve the goal that we're after.
So it sounds to me like you had been doing yoga, obviously, as a teacher, and then you had your own fertility challenges. Somewhere there's like in my brain here, listening to you, there's this gap of like, how did you go from just being a yoga teacher to realizing that this was a methodology that could be applied to fertility and getting pregnant? Like, where did you come, when did did you have like an aha moment where you were like, oh, I think this is the path? And then like you kind of evolved into a methodology where today you have, it sounds like you have a pretty specific path you put your clients through that helps them develop that inner journey, we'll say, but custom. So where did that, you see where I'm coming from? Like from a practitioner perspective, there is a methodology that your brain and your experience kind of formulated. How did you, do you remember going through that journey and like really getting those aha moments? Like what was it that was there a turning point for you where you were like, okay, this is it. I see where I'm going.
Well, originally it really was that I conceived miraculously when I didn't even think that was possible, and just being so grateful and blessed that I could use this wisdom and change my life, and realizing that during the pandemic it was time to go online and it was time to offer services in a bigger way that really are going to support women where they need it the most, because depending where you are in the world, there truly, especially in Canada where I'm from, there are not a lot of clinics. There's not a lot of support, in my opinion, and there's a lot of travel involved, and there's a lot of disruption in your day to day life in order to make things happen. And it's like there's so much that we can control, and it's really just shifting that locus of control from external to internal and worrying about all of the things that are within your control, because some things aren't. But when you focus on what is in your control and what can affect your health and well-being, then you're going to be so much better off.
Yeah, that applies to business too, right? Because when we realize that we have, like, it sounds like you made the decision to go from more in person to more of a virtual model. That's looking at how you could take your message further. What was that transition like for you? Was it was I'm sure there was a learning curve. I mean, you probably had some questions. You were not really sure how you were going to navigate that, or did something just kind of land in your lap that kind of showed you the way? Like, how did that process happen where you were like, oh, okay, now we're online. This is how it's going to be.
I just made the leap, and it really was just following my inner guidance and following just an inner knowing that this needs to be out there. This needs to be available for people. There's too many people that are struggling and suffering, and it really wasn't a one size fits all, but I did have a plan of, like my behind me with a baby and a lotus. I had that vision and someone created it for me, because that's not, my expertise. But it was really just knowing that this is what I want it to look like and like for people, and that they then have this knowledge to use for the rest of their lives, because it's not a one and done thing. It's not just use it and shelf it. It's wisdom that I still use daily.
I hear you. That makes sense. So when you went online, you got your graphic and your brand. How did you announce it to the world? I mean, what was your methodology for letting the world know about your program?
Initially, I just started on social media, and then, a website and networking, and just grew and grew and grew, became a best-selling author. I mean, I really don't think that there's one way to have it look like or be like. I really just sort of was intuitively guided of this is what the next step looks for me. This is how I want to share my message. This is how I want people to be able to reach me, to get in touch with me, and knowing that there's many ways to share your message, and that all are welcome and all are valuable. And it's really just, you know there is a place for stepping out of your comfort zone, but also, following your heart and leaning into your gifts. And for me, writing has always been something that I have been drawn to since childhood. So it was really an opportunity to get back and go back to that, and to use that to spread my message.
Yeah. It's funny because, I'm listening to you, it sounds like, I don't know if I'm stretching on a limb here, but it seems like to you it was so second nature that it almost feels like funny to say that it was a methodology or like I just followed my heart and this is how it went. But in a way though, that is something that really that's great advice because a lot of times when we get into a place where we feel out of our comfort zone, we start to second guess our gut instinct and start to think, well, is this the right path? Is this the right thing to do? And so it's great to hear you did that because it really obviously worked well for you. Um, did you have like a daily practice that helped you to reconnect with your inner wisdom to get that clarity in moments that you were like, I want to reach out, but I'm not really clear on what to say, or I'm not yet sure how to take this next step. So instead of just getting caught up in that questioning, maybe you had a practice that helped you listen to your inner wisdom for how to say things or where to put your message, who to connect with, when was something the right fit. You know what I'm trying to say?
I think that knowing that I am a sensitive person and intuitive, and knowing that, just knowing the mindset and the frame of mind that someone who's going through that is in, really, led me to be very mindful of the way that I approach people, and, like cold DMing people and things that are very often taught in the online space, that's not my approach, and that's not a way that my heart was felt in alignment to approach people. It's a very sort of taboo topic and something that is very personal. So there definitely was a different approach. And for myself, my day starts with meditation, and I always that has been life changing for me to set that time and space for myself to move into my day with that intention and with that focus and with that clarity, because I used to be pulled out of bed by mom, and I never loved starting my day feeling behind, feeling rushed, feeling, like it was just go, go, go. And so after years, I finally was like, okay, there must be a reason why this is said to, be a great way to start your day. And it is. And if I had time and space, I would meditate and do yoga and do lots of things before my day begun, but I'm not getting up at 4 a.m. either. So
I'm with you on that. I know today I was happy to I did like 2 minutes of breath work. I'm like, okay, that's what I get today, but it's better than nothing because I definitely see 100% difference on days I take time, even if it's just 2 minutes versus 0 minutes. It's a total night and day difference. So yeah, I do think that's important. One of my favorite things about holistic practitioners is how oftentimes they're modality, in your case yoga or breath work or meditation, is such an integral part of your business in helping you navigate that journey. I just think that is so cool. I love hearing that story because I want to impress upon people to lean into that and to follow that. And you're right, like the strategy of a cold DMing or um I don't know, whatever else somebody mentioned earlier on the podcast, she called it bro marketing. I thought that was a clever way of saying it. It just doesn't feel so nurturing, right? Like we want to nurture people. We want to make them feel like we see them and we hear them and we're here for you without making them feel like we're trying to shove ourselves into their space. So when you did that, and you said you leveraged social media, but you didn't use cold DMs. How did you do that? Did you just post on your space? Did you go into groups? Did you just build friendships? Like what was your approach to nurturing people?
really focusing on those collaborations and those people that maybe don't offer the same modalities that I do, but they are so beneficial to know what is available out there for us, how we can help ourselves, because I know that I personally wasn't in the space and place at the time to be able to help myself in that way. And I didn't know that all of these things were available, before the internet was so prevalent like it is in this day and age. And I think that it's so great to collaborate with heart centered entrepreneurs as well that say offer things like laughter yoga, which I don't offer, or they offer theta healing, or they offer NLP. And there's so many things that we perhaps aren't aware of that we can use to begin to see where we're at and to shift towards where we want to be.
Oh, that is so powerful. I think that has to be the number one theme I've heard from all the interviews I've done so far is this collaboration. And one of the other things that I think holistic practitioners have going for them in general as business owners is everybody is so willing to give. It's such a different mindset than, other maybe I don't know what other type of there's not like I don't want to label and rules, but just from my experience, there are certain businesses that are it's more like what's in it for me and they're the takers. Whereas so many of the practitioners are like, there's plenty for everybody. Absolutely, let's collaborate because I don't specialize in fertility. Specialize in, grounding, maybe something else, or stress relief, stress and anxiety. And I do have a client that's working and that would like to have help with that. So let me introduce him to you. It's just such a different dynamic. That is really cool. So you were reaching out to people in the space, just kind of building like coffee chats and kind of connecting and making friendships and collaborating. And then over time, how long did that take you? Like when you finally went to like I'm going all in on this virtual position of my business. When do you feel like or how long do you think it took you to really develop yourself, your systems, your routine to where things finally felt like they were flowing and it wasn't like just in that startup phase? You know what I'm trying to say? Like there comes a little breaking point where things start to get a little easier. How long was that journey for you?
I think for myself, it was probably 18 months, which is maybe longer than most, but also being aware that I have 3 children, and that I did this when my youngest was, before he was in school, I started this. So I knew that it was going to be a slow, gradual build, but it was just the dedication that this is my purpose and this is how I want to serve people. And it doesn't matter how long it takes or what it looks like or what the norms are. This is really where my heart and soul feels like I need to be able to help people.
Oh, it's such a good message. I love it. And honestly, I don't think 18 months is that long. I think that's really probably consistent for a lot of people. You know, you had something going for you in that you already had been in the yoga space and you had a foundation where other people are still figuring out their modality. They have to get their certification and they're launching from like they've just healed themselves. They haven't really worked with others yet. You kind of had that foundation. So that might have been a little bit more of a launch pad for you. But I definitely think that is that's a cool story, and thank you for sharing that. Because not that I think people should compare each other to, like, we don't need to look at other people, but to set that expectation of, I'm in this no matter how long it takes. This is my path. I'm going forward regardless, and I'm excited. I think that is a beautiful message. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank
So
you. Because sometimes I think we get stuck in what it should be, or we feel behind, or we set goals that maybe aren't achievable or attainable at that point in time, but that doesn't mean that they aren't in the future. And I think it's just, giving yourself space and grace to be where you're at and, the arrow pointed in that direction.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. So now, how long have you been, are you primarily online or do you go back and forth still, or do you doing anything in person?
I'm not doing anything in person. All of my offerings are online, and there are many offerings because it's just near and dear to my heart that, yoga is a daily practice. I offer online classes for those trying to conceive and for others. I offer Reiki. I offer monthly virtual yoga retreats in collaboration with others. And really just knowing that we should always prioritize our health and well-being, we aren't able to serve in the way that we want if we don't. And if we want to be here, we want to be healthy for our families, it's really important that we take that time wherever we're at in our journey to really prioritize ourselves. And I know for myself, for a long time, I didn't, because I tried so hard to have children that I was like, put them first, yet felt depleted at the end of the day. And it really is not selfish to prioritize yourself and your self care because you can't pour from an empty cup. And I know that phrase is overused, but it's true.
It is true. So let's talk about something really interesting that you're doing that I don't know if you recognize this. This is something that I see a lot in a marketing perspective, where people who are certified in a modality, in your case, we'll just say yoga, they would typically be nervous or concerned about niching down. Like in your case, you niched down into the fertility space as far as like that's your primary marketing focus. Um, but you still serve people in so many other ways. And you've also created what we call a product ladder, where you might get them in as a fertility customer, but they stay with you because they want to be a mindful mama now that they've had their baby, right? So that is a really powerful strategy. I don't even know if you realize how organized that was for, in a way, or if you did that intentionally, or if it just kind of organically happened. But that's a really powerful thing I just wanted to highlight because sometimes we think if I start out, I need to just do yoga because everybody could do yoga. But you didn't. You were like, no, it has to do with this fertility and this messaging, and this is my focus right here. And then sometimes, as they say, we need to niche down in order to expand. And that's exactly what you did. You focused in on this, and then it ended up expanding back out into more of a more open role. But your model hasn't changed, right? Like everything is still basically focused on fertility.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's fantastic. Did you do that on purpose or did you just realize that that happened and you just kind of, it was like an
It
organic
was
evolution?
I was just those words, I was literally just gonna say those words. You took them right out of my mouth, but it really was of everything just organically unfolding naturally, and it was like, "This is the next step," and, my publisher is someone I host these yoga retreats with and someone who does face yoga, and it's just like 3 hours of bliss that we do and collaborate monthly together, and it's like, who wouldn't want that? It's like one of the highlights of my month. I look forward to it.
That's awesome. That's so fun. And it's great that you're having fun in your business too. That's so fantastic. So, what is the next step? Do you have plans? Do you have maybe they're not plans yet. They're more or less musings like I'm wondering what the next step is or I'm starting to see this next step. Like have you given any thought to how your business is evolving from here?
Definitely. There's so many there's so many opportunities, there's so many options, and yet I don't want to be too widespread or thinly spread that, I can't serve in the manner and capacity that I want to. So I'm not going to spill the beans just yet, but I'm very, very excited for 2024. And I did step back into the role of a student as well this year because my mentor who trained me told me that I was ready to go further with his mentor in India. So, really getting these sacred ancient teachings sort of right from the source and already seeing so many shifts and changes and really just it's called Amanaska yoga, but it really is um just the clarity and the focus even in my own mind sometimes that it's just like wow, that's exactly what I needed to hear right in this moment. Everything just sort of falls into your lap when it's needed, and when you're ready the teacher appears.
That's so wonderful. I love what you said about there's so much abundant opportunities and it's easy to want to get excited and I'm careful to not spread myself too thin. How have you navigated that? Like how have you internally given yourself permission to say no to things? Like sometimes we have that little, I don't know, moment of fear of missing out. Like this looks like a really great opportunity, but yet I also know if I do that, I could potentially be restricting what I'm able to do over here, right? Like we logically know that, but how do you navigate making that decision and then maybe gracefully declining on certain things that make sense to you?
I think that it's easy to get carried away and swept away in the moment, and I did have an opportunity to go travel in the States and do shows, and once a month, and I was like, "That's not why I started my business though," you know? I didn't do this to get on TV. I did this so that I could help people on a personal one-to-one level, and yes, maybe it would have a massive, impact and I would reach so many more people, but it's also not the space and place that I'm in right now. So, I have 3 kids under 12 years old, and it's just like traveling from Canada on a monthly basis probably isn't the best fit for me right now in this moment, but might it be in the future? Maybe. But just making those conscious choices and really tuning in and knowing that, you know, to do what is in alignment and really right for me and coming back to the why. Why did I start this in the first place? And it really was to help people that are struggling and suffering on this fertility journey to have the support that they're looking for.
I think that why is so powerful. And oftentimes our why could start with, this is what worked for me and I want to help others. But I love how you've said that same why at least 3 times, I think, in our episode. It's clear that you're very committed, like internally, your mission. And that is such a powerful thing to be so clear on because you're right. It can dictate yes or no so much faster when you can check it against that pillar of truth within yourself. You can say, yes, this aligns, this isn't aligned. So I would say on that note, and you're a great example of this, for anyone listening who might struggle with that clarity of knowing when is this the right move or not, it sounds like you need to get more clear on your why and maybe do some deeper work, inner work on what your mission is. Because when you have that clarity, all of a sudden everything makes sense. Like it's so true what you're saying, Ashley. I've had that experience myself where like my mission isn't about making an influence wide. My mission is to make an influence deep. Like I want to change people's lives one to one. Sure, I could be a speaker and I could be a motivational author and I could go out and do all these things. But I recognized that that was more my ego was like pushing me because of the fame and the glory and the ideas that I thought would come from that. When in fact, that wasn't my heart centered mission. My heart centered mission said, no, I want to change a business owner's life because when I do that, then they can change other people's lives. Then that's really the whole purpose, right? So I love that you were so committed to your truth and embodied that. Thank you for sharing. That was a really powerful uh, moment for anybody who might be struggling with that clarity. So if you could go back to yourself, I mean, listening to your journey, quite honestly, I don't feel like you've had any area that you could have done differently. It was such a beautiful experience. But is there something that pops up for you maybe that was like, if I could go back and tell myself in those formative stages, a piece of wisdom or advice that might have boosted you up back then? Do you have something there, or maybe just something that you would share with other people who are starting on the journey?
I think that it's really important to find your tribe. And I think that it's really important to have support as a solopreneur because I'm still a solopreneur. And I think that it cannot be overstated how instrumental it is to have people in your world that support you, that promote you, that you can go to when and if you are like on a day that you want to throw in the towel and you're just like, what am I doing this for? Even though you know why you're doing it, I think it's really important. And I feel blessed to have found a bunch of beautiful people that I know that I can trust, that I can rely on, that support me, and that would, throw my name in a hat, at any opportunity.
That is so true and so powerful. And that probably came a lot from those coffee connections you made in the beginning too, I bet.
Definitely. That was the beginning, and being part of multi-author books, I feel like I've really found my soul family in that these people are all very spiritual, heart-centered entrepreneurs, and I really just, you know, I know that they have my back, and I have goosebumps, which is my intuition telling me that they have my back right here, right now in this moment.
Yes. Oh, so good. Wonderful. Wow. Thank you so much. This has been such a powerful episode. I know anybody's who's in those formative stages who might be feeling the struggle in the beginning, they're going to get a lot of wisdom out of this and hopefully get rerouted back to their center, which I think is really the goal of this podcast, to help them get that. So, what is the best place for people to connect with you if they'd like to learn more about your modality, or maybe they themselves are struggling with fertility?
The best place to find me if you are struggling with infertility would be my Holistic Fertility Coach Facebook group. Or if you're just looking for health and wellness in general, you can find me on Vibely. It's Vibly. And all of my offerings are there. You can try a free yoga class, a meditation. If you're looking for a Reiki session, you can tune into that as well. All of my energy medicine is available on that platform as well as my coaching.
That's the first I've heard energy medicine. I like that. It's the first one for me. I'm gonna check it out. I was taking notes.
Well, I I've really sort of just put what I do into that box because it is energy medicine, it's chakra balancing, it's Reiki, it's yoga, it's mind, body, spirit. And it really is working with your energetic being and realizing you're more than your physical body and that there's a lot we can tune into and tap into.
Mm, yes, indeed. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ashley. This has been just a pleasure. I'm so grateful for our conversation today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.